Welcome to our third episode in this series on hunger, fullness, satisfaction, and coping with your emotions with kindness. Today, we're going to talk about how to honor and feel your fullness. So last week, we talked more about how to tune into hunger, and this week, we're going to talk more about how to tune into fullness. They are like two ends of the same seesaw, right? Feeling fullness is a really great way to practice respecting your body and honoring your body's signals. So last week we talked about interoceptive awareness and how you're feeling things from inside your body when you're hungry. And you're also using interoceptive awareness when you are sensing your fullness. Your stomach is stretching, and that is sending messages to your brain, in addition to chemical things happening in your body as well from food being in your body and your bloodstream. When we eat slowly and mindfully, it helps us feel our fullness. Have you ever noticed how if you eat something really fast, you might not feel full right away, and then like 20 minutes later, you're like, oh, I ate too much. I'm too full. I know I have been there as well because I have had a history of being a fast eater. This could be because you grew up in a family of fast eaters, you've worked in jobs where you didn't have proper lunch breaks and you had to eat fast. This could have to do with working early in the morning and feeling rushed in the morning to eat. Lots of things can contribute to eating fast. But when we eat slowly and mindfully, it really helps us tune in and honor the fullness that we're feeling. So does observing how long meals and snacks keep us full. So not all meals are created equal in their sticking power. You could eat a meal and feel full, but you're hungry an hour later. So that type of meal creates a different level of fullness than, the one that lasts you for 4 hours. The other weekend, it was around 4 p.m. and I was feeling some hunger, but I knew that we were going to have dinner in a couple hours. And I just needed to eat something, right? I needed a little snack. So I had an apple and I ate the apple and I felt full, but I only felt full for about 1 hour and then I got hungry again. So it's important to pay attention to those differences, versus the burrito I had today that had beans, rice, cheese, guac. That's going to keep me full for at least 4, maybe even 5 hours. You can keep a journal, which can be really fun to do, and just be like, okay, this apple kept me full for 1 hour, burrito 5 hours, cereal 2 hours, and start to get a gauge on the foods that you like to eat most often. How long do they keep you full? You can also just observe it as well if you don't want to keep a journal or notes on your phone. Another good question to ask yourself is, do combinations of food keep you fuller longer? For example, if you add protein and fat to a meal, it's going to increase the satiety factor of the meal or the fullness. So I love toaster waffles. They're one of my favorite quick breakfasts in the morning for pre-workout, because I always work out in the morning, but I eat basically 2 breakfasts because I wake up at 6 basically every morning. So I wake up hungry. I eat a little something because I want to have some energy for my workout. I don't want to go 3.5, 4 hours before I eat. But I also don't want to eat so much food that I feel sluggish and my gut feels heavy, etc., especially if I'm going to go do cardio, run, etc. So I love eating just carbs is what I'll eat pre-workout. And so I love to have fruit like grapefruit, strawberries, kiwis. Those are some of my favorite things to eat. But I also love toaster waffles because they're very satisfying to me. I love the crunch. I like crunchy, chewy things. How about you? I like crunchy on the outside and chewy on the inside, like toasted bagel, toasted waffle, basically toast anything and I'm into it. So a toaster waffle on its own will be less filling than if I topped it with peanut butter and banana, or if I topped it with egg whites and cheese. That may sound weird, but it's actually really tasty. It's kind of like this savory vibe with chicken and waffles, but egg whites with some melted cheddar cheese on some toasted waffles. You can put a little syrup on the base of the waffle too, or sugar-free syrup. I actually prefer sugar-free syrup. So like no foods are forbidden. So I allow myself to eat all foods. And I've tried, like I got maple syrup and tried it. And I actually realized like liquid sugar in general does not make me feel my best. And I actually like the taste of sugar-free syrup. So that I just choose that because I prefer it. And that's called being in tune with your taste preferences and then tuning into how foods make you feel, but not forbidding foods because quote unquote of some diet rule. A green salad, for example, with like just some Italian dressing will be less filling than if you had one with like tofu and sunflower seeds and tomatoes and maybe a few croutons. So pay attention to how combinations of food keep you full or not. Practice putting food down, right? I had to learn this because I tended to scarf my food, or like if I was eating it, I would just like hold it in my hands the whole time. And I've learned the power of just like either putting my fork or spoon down and just pausing, or putting, if I'm holding like a burrito or a piece of pizza or a sandwich, like put it down, like put it down while I chew and like really enjoy that bite, and then like breathe and like say something to my person I'm eating with, and then like pick it up and have another bite. You know, that tuning in and feeling how you feel is going to help you not eat past comfortable fullness. I used to get really frustrated with myself because I was like, ugh, here I am again. Like I ate past comfortable fullness. Why am I always overeating? And it's because I was eating like too fast and I wasn't tuning in. But just because you have a bit of fullness doesn't mean that you should stop and that you've nourished yourself enough. Remember, fullness is a scale like hunger. So you'll go from having like no fullness, right? Or if you might start a meal not as hungry, and so your fullness is actually going to start at like a 3 and like scale up to an 8 versus starting at a 1 and scaling up to a 6, right? Does that make sense? So it's important that while you might feel an initial fullness and be at like a 5, it might be better to end at a 7, and that will keep you full for 4 hours versus 2. Does that make sense? So like when I had my apple snack, it like brought my fullness level to probably like a 5 or a 6, but it like didn't stick with me because it didn't have like anything else with it. So then my hunger came back. I also recommend trying to not drink a bunch of fluids with your meal, which will create artificial fullness. I try to either drink my water, you know, like throughout the day, an hour before I eat, or sip on it throughout the day versus like having a giant glass of fluid with my meal. I grew up in a house where we were either always served milk or water with dinner. And obviously it's nice to have a little bit of fluid when you're eating to kind of like clear your mouth or help you swallow at times, things like that. But in general, try not to drink like a high volume of fluids, which will create that artificial fullness. Remember that sometimes fullness creates sadness. Have you ever felt this? So if you love eating and you love food like me, and you've eaten your thing and you're full, or let's say you started a meal and you got full after a smaller amount than you wanted to eat, you can feel sad that it's over, right? And this is a very normal feeling that I think a lot of people don't talk about. Things that have helped me with this are remembering that eating foods that satisfy me will actually help with this. So if I feel sad that I'm full, I typically only feel that when I'm eating foods that don't actually satisfy me. Like if I'm eating something I really enjoy, like I won't be sad when I'm full because I thoroughly enjoyed my eating experience. It's when we don't fully enjoy our eating experience that we can have sad feelings about like being done with food. Also remind yourself that you can have this food again at your next meal if you really love it. So I've been like loving pizza bagels lately. All right. Did you guys ever have those? There was a bagel shop in my hometown in Oregon that made pizza bagels for lunch. And all of us in middle school would walk across the street to this bagel shop and get pizza bagels. So like they're very nostalgic food for me. And I hadn't eaten them forever. And I had one recently and I was like, whoa, this is so good. I was like, can I have this again, like immediately? And give yourself permission to eat that food again if you really enjoy it. It will also help habituate the food for you. And then focus on eating more slowly, mindfully, and that will really enhance pleasure and satisfaction. And so you'll feel less sad when a meal is over. Just remember that while you can always eat more, like if you are full and you want to have a few more bites, that's totally okay. There's no rules here. But like if you stop eating when you're comfortably full, you will have more satisfaction, right? You will tend to feel more satisfaction overall from your meal. My next tip is to just practice and experiment. This is not like a rigid process. You're not going to master it immediately. It takes practice to tune in to our bodies and really feel our hunger and fullness. So don't beat yourself up if you do eat past comfortable fullness at times. It's normal. Sometimes we overshoot because our brain takes time to catch up to our stomach, especially if we're eating fast. So if you eat more slowly and mindfully, your brain and your stomach will be more linked up time-wise. Now, let's say you do overeat, you've gone past comfortable fullness. If this happens, please do not beat yourself up with negative self-talk. That is not going to help. A few things that have helped me when I've overeaten is to remind myself that, while I feel a little uncomfortably full, this sensation will pass. It'll probably pass in an hour, actually. This isn't going to last that long. I also will sometimes use a heating pad and just put that over my tummy, and that really helps my tummy feel better as my digestion is occurring. And really think about that. You're increasing blood flow to your gastrointestinal tract, and that's going to help speed metabolic processes and improve digestion. And then I will sometimes take a gentle walk, not to like burn off calories, not as punishment, just to like get the blood moving. It tends to make me feel better. I once kind of binged on like an ice cream sundae, and I was like on a road trip, and I felt like so sick when I got back from that trip with all that sugar. And I just went for like a long walk. I did some leg exercises, and like all of a sudden I felt better because like my body was able to use all that sugar that I had put into my body. And then I will sometimes sip on peppermint or ginger tea. So I'll try not to add like a giant cup of tea because more fluid volume could worsen your fullness sensation. But I will maybe just like make a concentrated cup of tea, almost make it like medicinal. So boil less water, but use the same tea bag, and then just like sip gently on that. And peppermint and mint are so good for digestion. I also have a mint like plant on my patio, and sometimes I'll just grab a couple leaves and chew on them, and it really is like good for my digestion. So just know that, this is part of the process of really starting to tune in and feel your fullness. Okay, I hope these tips helped you. Feel free to message me on Instagram at Heather McConaughey and let me know what helped you the most. Next week, we're going to be talking about 4 tools for coping with your emotions with kindness, which is a really important part of this food journey. So I'm excited to chat with you then, and I hope you have a great week.